guys are going to continue to get in this trap where you only have one worldview because it thinks you want to feel like you're black, or you want to feel like you're on the right side of history when you're causing harm to your own people by continuing to only go with one option. Like it's simple. The person who has the options has control. If I know that nothing that I can do to you is going to keep you from leaving my side, why would I treat you well?
Right.
It's simple, like game theory, and people don't get it. And then if you step out of line, you're this and that. But like, I just don't give a fuck. So
black folks, we just been brainwashed, man. It's just, you can ask a black person who they gonna vote for. They gonna say Democrat, and that's just in their heads. So it's one of them things where, like you said, it's the lesser of two evils. And if you really want to fact check, you really want to dig deep, and we talk about the '94 crime bill, you talk about those kind of things with Biden and Harris, what she did in California. It's like, if you really look into it,
make the case.
Yeah, I mean,
who really is lesser of two evils? Lay it out.
And that's exactly what you're saying. But the thing is, nobody wants to hear that. Everybody just wants to be like, well, we just know Trump's not a good person, you know. And it's the easy cop out.
Without research.
I
don't know. I touched on a conversation I just had with Ayo right before we started about, like, you know, black people. Is it help or is it a handout that we're looking for? And I feel like sometimes we just fall on the needle of looking for the handout versus actually like receiving help and doing something with it. You give me a handout, you gave me what I need and I'm good. Like, you give me help, now I have the tools now to know what I have to do to make us as a people better. You know, so I feel like sometimes, like, as black people, they're just okay with this, that handout. And they're just like, oh, we're satisfied now, let's move on. Until they need another handout in 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, you know. So I don't know. I think that's like one of the things that we, as people, most likely probably will struggle with the most. Public housing, welfare, stuff of that nature. That's like a handout. Like, oh, I got $18 rent while my neighbor pays $675 or whatever the amount. You know, and it's like, why you get $18 rent? Because I have 2 kids. Now I get a handout. That's not help. You know, help is like, how would we slow this down that my daughter, my son wouldn't be living for $18, $16 a month, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, politic-wise, the conversation is always a tough thing to talk about. Like you said, it's hard to talk about something and separate emotions. And like when you've grown up a certain way, it's kind of like when you grow up your whole life in the church and then somebody doesn't, and y'all have a conversation about, you know, religion or something like that. It's like one view and the other view, you're stuck on what you grew up in and all that. And with like the Democratic Party and all that, like I grew up, Democrat, hey, you're black, Democrats is what you vote for. That's what you have to vote for. You grow up and everything you can vote, this is what you vote for. So it's me doing my personal research, like you said, and then finding out, okay, this is who I vote for. But you talked about the Dr. What's
Umar.
his name? Umar. Yeah, I don't listen to shit he says because the same person who says that if LeBron and the Lakers win, then that's it's set up for them to win because they're gonna silence Black Lives Matter and it's gonna put a hush on the protests and shit like that. So
yeah, he's loony, but I just like that he said it because he's quote unquote like supposed to be one of the wokest of woke, blackest of black type of people, right?
Shit, though.
And he just came out and said that. So it's kind of like, you know, you have the people out there. You have him.
I swear he clickbait, bro.
He is clickbait. He is clickbait. But some of those people are like you have like the Killer Mikes who
Killer Mike legit.
He got in trouble because he went to speak with the Republican governor of Georgia, or the Republican mayor. He's like, dude, that's who the governor is right now. Who else am I supposed to talk to? This is who's running our state.
Correct.
You hear what he's doing about the banks?
Mm-mm.
I don't know too much about it, but you got to look into it. But something about, like, he's trying to open up like black-based banks where instead of banking with the major, like a Wells Fargo, things like that. I mean, just like keep the thing in house. I mean, like I said, I don't know too much about it, but Killer Mike though, I mean, he's highly respected right now because he came from, we knew him as a rapper, but he's a smart, educated dude, man,
right.
And he is speaking facts.
Without knowing anything about it, is like a black bank a good idea?
Yes. So I mean, we did have something like that way back.
Black
in
Wall
Tulsa.
Street?
Yep. But I just pulled it up. He secured $3 million for black-owned Digital Bank. Digital Bank is actually probably better. 10,000 accounts requests in the first 24 hours. Oh, it's actually named after Black Wall Street. Area of Tulsa is Oklahoma's former Greenwood district, so it would be called, I'm guessing, the Greenwood Bank, something like that. But I think that's a good idea.
That's dope.
Why do you think it would be a good idea?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to see. I really don't know how banks work. Like I know I put my money in the I put my money in the bank. Over time, savings accounts, you'll get a interest here and there, and you'll gain some money. A CD, you'll gain some money. All these other, stocks, you'll gain money. But
How'd it work for me 12 years ago?
how do you start a bank? That's like the thing that's like I don't know. Like,
There's
what
like
if I
a
come
lot
to you
of,
and you only like, what did you say, $3 million?
They get $35 fees.
Yeah.
That's how you start a bank.
Yeah, basically.
If you own a bank, if you own a bank, you have power. Like everything flows through the banks, 100%.
Yeah, I know, but it's like, what if I come to you with like 40 million? You just say you have what, 3 million?
No, I don't think he has $3 million in there.
Oh,
I'm just saying that's probably like the
how
startup.
do you
Try to get
protect
money contributed
my
into the
my
fund or
210K?
Because they don't have that much money anywhere.
Like I need my money protected.
Yeah.
More so
That's
than
another thing.
anything.
We need I say we need to mobilize. Why do we never mobilize, dude? Like every major city you go, there's Chinatown, Koreatown, there's a Jewish neighborhood.
Because we don't have a culture.
Latin neighborhood, all that stuff, right? You got we got to put like money. Like everyone talks about vote. I'm like, dude, voting does not do shit. Things happen in our country through lobbies. You have whatever elected representatives you have, then some dude at Citibank or some dude at a corporate Fortune 500 company literally hires a lawyer to write up the bills for these. They don't actually write those bills.
Mm-hmm.
They actually just sign shit that companies create word for word, verbatim. So like if you want to have any real power, you need to have a lobby. If you want to have a lobby, you need to have money. So like that's why these people like LeBron, Magic Johnson, and them, they should be pulling their money together to create a lobby, to create like a real backing, so they can have political sway. Like this is money. We go to war over money. We kill people over money. If you don't have money, like you're not at the fucking table. And
Dino,
we're
what
just
you
like,
mean by
vote,
we ain't got no
vote.
culture, though?
Well, a lot of our African, think about it like this, we can put it simply. Aside from, you're born here, but aside from you, we're all African Americans, right?
Haitian American.
We can't really pinpoint exactly where we're from, but if you look at a Chinese person down the street, they're not Chinese American, or they're not Asian American, they're Chinese. They know exactly where they're from. We're from Africa, like there's a million countries out, well not a million, but you get what I'm saying. It's a lot of countries, there's a lot of places that we can come from specifically. And we don't have that. We can't even go back 2 generations and find that out. Most of us, you can go back one. I can
Right,
go back
on my dad's side, right?
Yeah, I can go back. I actually asked my dad a few months ago, do you know where we're from? Because that's where I want to go. I want to go to Africa before I go anywhere else in the world, right? Outside the country, obviously. But I would like to visit where my family is from. So I hit my pops like, yo, you know where we're from? He was like, nah. So he was like, ask your uncle, is his older brother. So I asked him, he was like, no, I don't know either. So I called my mom, like, yo, you know where we're from? She was like, nope. Did the ancestry shit, but I don't really believe that. But that's what I mean. Like, a lot of people, like Chinese, can send their kids here, and then actually they'll bring their whole damn family here, and then they'll start that. Where I'm from, a lot of donut shops and maybe nail salon, whatever it is, but then they'll build off of that and then start another business and whatever it is. We don't have that because we end up we've already been here, one, and then we were already started in this poverty-stricken neighborhood. So we're trying to build up the entire time, but the whole time we're kind of just building up to live the next day, in a sense. Where we don't have enough foundation, we don't have that structure, and it's everybody kill or be killed, and we're trying to eat off the same plate, and it's tough. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I mean. We don't have
too all the time, and that's the hardest thing too, man.
Yeah,
I hate seeing that.
That's what I'm saying, because we're all fighting for the same. We're all trying to get the
the
same
envy is
thing
crazy,
off the table.
man. You see somebody that accomplished something that you didn't accomplish, and just
The jealousy, the materialistic stuff as
Yeah.
well. Like,
I go back to Nipsey, bro. That's
well, even like
still
growing,
hits me.
even growing up, like amongst your family, You'd go to family reunions, you go to Thanksgiving, Christmas, birthday parties, Easter. You got to be the flyest one that pulls up. You have to be the flyest one that pulls up. You know, otherwise it's like, oh man, dude, you know, what's up with James? He's the bum, you know, the family this year. Next year you come back, it's like, oh man, James, you done growing up, man. You look, you got the shoes, you got the chains, it's like,
Trying to get like you.
is that
Yeah.
really what we're up, you know, after?
size you wear.
You know, is that really what we're after? You know, the materialistic things in life? It's funny that Dino touched on the Chinese culture and things like that, because like I remember when I first moved here in '97, China Star in town, they only had that one location that was Southeast. And they literally like brought their family one by one over, and they worked them through the company. 2001, 2002, 2004, they had three locations in town.
Yeah.
And now they're back to doing one. But how many people did they move through Rochester from China? And now they're like successful as a business, as probably one of the best Chinese places in this town. And that's from '97. It's 2020. You know, that's
23.
23 years, you know, of just success, you know, and they just started that. You know, it's like I don't know any black companies in this city that has done that.
We don't have a black company, especially from what I see, that's sustained or been around for 23 years. I may be wrong, but you're right though, man. But that's how their view is, you know, and that's
Right.
where there is a Chinatown, because they can move somewhere and be like, this is our culture, we're bringing it here, and our kids are gonna follow by these rules and guidelines, and all of a sudden it grows. But with us,
Yeah, the biggest thing there is they have a culture. I don't think we have a culture as black people.
I think we are the culture, to be honest.
No, I agree with that. But so
Yeah.
it's not.
I know what you mean though.
It's not. Fuck. We don't have a past of it, you know, or like a past to it. It's like we're,
Like, our
we're
culture
like
reflects,
moving
like,
all the
could
time
Could
right
it
now.
just
Things
be
like that, but-
that our previous lifestyle culture has been damaged so much that we don't know where the fuck we're coming from?
That's what I mean. Like it was stripped from us.
Like
That's
it's
a
like,
fact.
oh,
The
you're
reason-
from
yeah,
Africa.
the rea-
Okay, shit.
The reason why
Am I
black
from
people are
North or
struggling is
South?
very simple. We don't have families.
Yeah.
It's the number one reason. It's very obvious. Single parent homes is
Yep.
the number one reason why Black America is struggling so bad. Because like only advantage that my mom had, she grew up in Milwaukee, most segregated city in the United States to this day, back in the '60s. And I asked her about it. I was like, was there racism back then? She was like, yeah. I was like, how did you get through it? It's like, mostly stayed at home with the family, lived in an all-black working class neighborhood. All of my immediate family, cousins, everyone lived around. We were tight-knit, saved our money. Dad disciplined us. Mom stayed at home, got a scholarship, ended up good. So if you have a family, all of a sudden, you're insulated from this mass American terror campaign that's trying to keep every single black person from succeeding ever again. No, she went to college. She got grants. She grew up in the hood. She just had her family structure intact. And that was one thing that helped her become successful. But then what are some of the things that keep the black family structure from being intact? Welfare. If you know that the state's going to take care of your kid, you're less inclined to be there for your family. You know that you could just
Have
we
kids.
all know guys like this. They just knock kids up, baby moms, states raising the family. They just move on. They have no sense of responsibility since they don't have to take care of the kids. And then when you're on WIC, when you're on EBT, you're on food stamps, you're not living lavish, but you can basically get by for really not doing anything.
Yeah.
So you have enough to be unsuccessful and get by and have food and be able to trade in your EBT cards, go get some blacks, go get some weed. Then this is all this shit over and over again.
Yeah.
It's like that's the real issue. It's not police brutality. It's not even racism. Other cultures have come to this country and faced vicious racism, but they had their family structures and their culture intact, which kept them successful. Japanese came over here after the wars, after internment camps, being persecuted. Jews, Holocaust. 30% of their population was wiped off of the planet Earth.
Yeah.
And they still had their cultures intact and their families
I
intact.
think
So they were successful.
A big part of that is they had their culture intact. We've lost our culture for sure.
Yeah.
Since the inception of whenever the fuck we got here. Like my last name is not Norris. You know what I'm saying? Like that
Bro,
shit is
Google Higgs, man. The white dude popped up 15 times.
so. But I'm saying like
That's
Definitely a
so
slave name.
everybody has
Yeah,
I agree. Every race has endured something for sure. But the difference is in America for sure is there's been policies and governmental things that have impacted our culture, whereas it wasn't like that before for anybody else. You know what I'm saying? It was, yeah, there was slavery, and we enslaved our own people in Africa. We know that for 400 years, right?
Yep.
And then we were slaves in America for 400 years. But then you had segregation, and then you had Jim Crow, and then you got
Brown versus
massive
Board of
corporation,
Education.
and you got a whole bunch of shit that just kind of kept piling on. So now, you take the father out, and now that
'Cause he
mother
crumbled.
Yep, that mom grows that child up in a single mother home, and now her kid understands that this is possible too. So shit, I don't need a father. You know what I'm saying? When I get into that situation, I don't need no dad in my life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So then it just keeps going. It's that cycle. But yeah, it's that culture that we have to try to reinforce. We've said it before anyway, that we got to try to reinforce and restructure and try to make sure that we keep building ourselves and creating our own culture and expanding on that and then getting paid for that shit, for our likeness when they start using it. You know, because that's all of our likeness is used 100% of the time, all the time.
Yeah, I'm a product of a single parent household, but I feel like that is changing. You know, like I know growing up it was like, bro, where's your dad at? It's like, I mean, I don't know. I used to tell kids back in elementary school, I kid you not, my dad was Michael Jordan, and they fucking believed me because I was just that good of an athlete on the playgrounds. And I didn't have no bald head. But literally, like, I literally used to walk around on the playgrounds and tell kids my dad was Michael Jordan. And they would believe me just because I was, like I said, that good of a playground athlete. They couldn't combat that. But they were like, why does he never show up? I'm like, man, he got a game. He's on the road. You know, I would go on that shit all the time just because my actual dad wasn't there, you know? So now I feel like the fathers, the friends that I have now, even if they're not with their same girl, they still are taking care of their kids a little different than how I was raised, where I had to fucking lie about who my dad was. You know,
let me ride that wave real quick. So like today actually marks my parents' 37th wedding anniversary. Mm-hmm. And I thought about that, and I talked to him on the phone earlier, and I don't know if that's going to happen I can't say it's going to happen for me, but I'm just saying, like, in general, 37 years being with one person, it's not very common anymore. Mm-hmm. And just moving forward, I don't
really
think
know too many people at 37. So there's that.
It's a cultural thing. It's a cultural thing too.
And you said that too. Yeah. Like, do you think it's because I was born in Africa and it's just an African thing?
It's a cultural thing. Like you said, like, I think at the end of the day, when you say like a Chinese person comes here, they came from
is it Asian
or an Asian, or if you're Chinese, you're Chinese.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah. So any type of Asian person will just use Chinese, comes here, and they had that culture back there. They come here, they're just introduced to all this. They still have that stuff instilled to them.
That foundation.
Us being born here and growing up here, we're black in America. We're not, oh, hey, you're African American. It's, hey, you're black. Hey, I'm black. I'm black. And we live our life, and this is what we know. So we're trying to make that culture, and we look at music, movies, things like that, and what we see is like, okay, yeah, I do know people like that. Oh, I know people that do that. That's what molds our culture. And you know, when we see movies that goes over to like Japan and stuff like that, and they're doing like the blackface basically and stuff like that. It's like, oh yeah, this is hip hop. This is black culture in America. This is how it is. So it's tough to find that identity when, like you said, we don't know where we're from. We haven't been there to see what it's like to be there. Because I've never been to Africa. I don't know if being born in Africa, and probably today they do, but if they're like, oh, you're black, or if they're just say like you're African, I don't know what.
Fam, being African, being dark skinned was not it until Black Panther came out. I'm 100% honest with you. I'm dead ass, bro.
Well, we
used to get ribbed all the time.
Dog, African booty scratcher, this, that. God. But once Black Panther came out, people talk about Wakanda ain't even a real place, bro. You know what I'm
Maybe
saying?
it is.
But the amount of people that came to the theaters and they was dressed in dashikis and all that stuff, they embraced the African culture.
Then I don't know.
I have one.
We just had the conversation. A couple weeks ago about niggas and whatever. There's Americanized Africans, and there's like real Africans. I feel like you two are the Americanized. Like, I know some real Africans, and I'm like, dude, I don't know what the fuck he's talking about, why he's living his life like that. But you two almost live like y'all are grew up, obviously, grew up with us though. It's like, when I look
don't-
at you,
yeah.
bro, my sister literally was like, probably like 2 years ago, she was like, Tim is African? I was like, yeah, 100%.
I didn't know it either.
And like,
He
that's,
light-skinned.
that's one of those things
Yeah,
that
even your
like,
face changes if you're like,
yeah, like he's
or, like, it's
African?
weird. Even your face will look different if you were like African, like the same kid.
born
if,
there, yeah.
if he was born there, if he like stayed in Africa, he would like look different
Yeah.
than if he like went to America at a young age. Like I think even like your bone,
That shit is weird.
facial structure will change. You can tell.
Like my homie is one of my best friends. He's Nigerian. He moved out here when he was 14, I believe,
Yep.
and he's been here since then. He's 31 now. But like you can see the transition. Like this nigga was so African when he got here.
yeah, FOB for
And
real.
then now he's like kind of inundated. Like, okay, I don't even know if you African still.
Yeah, you
But
gotta
every once in a
question
while
it, you
they'll
know?
pop in, like give him a couple tequila shots and he right back in.
That could pass as black, even though I'm half black.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't even know he was Nigerian.
Yeah.
But
Half,
like,
so,
if I'm doing examples, like you versus a couple other people in your family.
Yeah.
I don't know how
First
big
of
your
all,
family.
you're short.
No.
And everybody else is tall.
Not even that, but like you have some real Africans in your family.
You talked about Nike earlier. Yeah, me and Nike both.
Nike, you and Nike,
Yeah.
Cyrus.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he looks more.
You know,
African. Yeah.
them, I'm like, damn, bro, those is Africans to me.
Yeah.
When if I walked up the street, I'd be like, oh, Tim. Until you probably said something or did something, I'd probably, he got some African in him. Otherwise it's like there's that disconnect from
Just
being
like a regular
Americanized.
nigga, that's what I'm saying.
I met this lady. I met this lady a couple weeks ago, and it was crazy because she was like, she asked me what my last name was, and I said my last name is Nella, and she goes, it can't be, and I go, what you mean? She goes, that's a Sudanese last name. I go, how do you know it's a Sudanese last name? She goes, well, I know a Nella, and I go, who? She knew my pops, and I was like, yeah,
Oh,
that's
shit.
yeah, and I was like, that's my pops. And she's like, oh my goodness, like
What she really wanted to say is she owned like 6 of them back in the day.
Damn. That's my last name that I gave you.
see, fuck.
I see it now. Nella.
Hey,
Oh, we had about
your pops
14 of
Nigerian,
them
right?
back
Yeah,
then.
my dad's
Okay.
Nigerian.
See, I was trying to be on
See,
my
I just
P's
want
and
to
Q's.
There
find
were
out.
some strong
I
ones.
don't know how we got to that, but I really do want to find out where I'm from. So shout out Ancestry.
Just like we
look me
always
up.
do,
23andMe,
myself.
look me up.
I wear this damn bracelet, a Kenyan bracelet, because my African friends
Yeah.
say that I'm Kenyan.
I lived in Kenya.
You could be Kenyan.
One of one.
But it's like,
none to come.
I don't really know that, but my African friends, they probably got more, knowledge than I would about what Kenyan folks and Kenyan people look like. So they said, I'm a Kenyan? Fuck, that's better than being Ancestry.com or 23andMe.
Yeah.
I trust them versus I trust some white person behind a computer screen saying you're 77% Kenyan, 20% black, or 1% fucking
Unknown.
Ethiopian. I don't know what the fuck, dude.
You kind of look like that.
But I'm gonna leave it after this point. But like pushing back even on like the idea that if we all knew like where our culture came from and like we all had kufis and dashikas or whatever, we'd all be good. I'm still gonna push it back against that argument too because that family unit thing. I have different sources that I look at, and one argument that I make, which is it is a conservative argument. It is the Thomas Sowell argument, right? Is that after when we were closer to slavery, when we were closer to Jim Crow, the black family unit was intact. In Jim Crow times, closer to slavery, we were 90% married families, right? You can look at it on a graph, and you can see the rate in single parenthood skyrocket immediately after the introduction of the welfare state, the war on poverty. Lyndon Johnson, one of the stipulations was that you couldn't get government assistance if you were married, but if you were a single mother, you could get government assistance. As soon as that happened, that created the incentive for fathers to leave the home, which skyrocketed the single parenthood, which is associated with crime, associated with poverty, all these other statistics. So I don't think it's like some nefarious plot, but I do think that the consequences of that liberal policy led to unintended consequences. Just like the crime bill, I get on Biden and Clinton for the crime bill. They actually didn't create that to harm black people. It was intended.
crime, yeah.
It was intended to fight crime. The Black Democratic Caucus supported it. Black mayors were asking for the crime bill. But unintended consequences. So you have the introduction of the welfare state, you have the introduction of the crime bill, things that were supposed to help us, right? And I could see from the data that I looked at, those are two of the main factors responsible. So when you guys are like, help, 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 this is why I'm saying I don't want them to help us. This is what happens when they try to help us. It continues to make things worse. Sometimes the answer that you don't want to hear is that sometimes we have to leave things be a little bit. And I'm not saying that you don't want to intervene ever, but the answer isn't always to just intervene and put something in, because people never think about second, third order, fourth order consequences. And I think it's very obvious. I think I could see a very obvious look at those two situations, the introduction of the welfare state and the crime bill, that has led to a lot of the problems we see now. But people are still going to run around, chasing KKK ghosts. So I don't know what to tell you guys.
Ghosts.
Yeah, they
Seen
out
them
there
up
for
for
real.
real, yeah.
I mean, they ain't right up on us.
The
But
KKK exists just like ISIS exists, just like white nationalist groups exist.
ISIS actually doesn't exist.
They all exist, right? These
That was
groups,
created by a
these
computer.
groups do exist, dude. It's like people have a hard time saying like two things can be true at the same time. The KKK can exist. There can be vile racists in the country, but they may not also be the root cause of black disenfranchisement.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So I'm more worried about that than I am. Like, I'm worried about that other things, but everyone's so focused on like the salacious, what you see on the news, right wing militias, KKK. That's an issue. I'd like for there to be 0% of those people. But you notice every time, Ice Cube, I want this black economic power plan. Liberals, shh, boy, go sit down somewhere. Go sit down, go talk to Fox. We don't want to talk to you. When we talk about real shit, shh, just come vote. They ask Biden questions at the debate. What do you think about this? What do you think about court packing? Get out there and vote. Like, oh, you want to know my opinion on issues? Wait till after. Wait till after you vote for me to tell you what I'm going to do. These are the people that you guys are dealing with, and I'm sorry, it just seems very logical to me to what's going on. So when people are looking at me like I'm crazy, I'm like, I guess we're just seeing two different universes. Get out there and vote November 3rd. Like, I'll holler at you on November 4th and like see what your life is like. And then we'll check back in 4 years when you don't get anything that you fucking want, even if you